back to the Big Mountain animated movie series. As you can see, I sort of decided to give up on the whole animated movie thing, and instead just decided to craft the mountain in real life. You know, a lot of people said it was quite cringe, the whole like terrain modification thing, but I went through with it anyway, and I guess you can just let me know in the comments whether you think I got the shape and sort of size right. No, I am of course here next to one of my biggest inspirations, so you might notice I'm a bit shaky, I'm a bit nervous. It is Mount Fuji herself. I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman. I forgot to ask, but I am sure of one thing: it's a mountain. God damn, is it a mountain? I'm gonna stop filming so that everyone in this park can enjoy their peace and quiet without me ruining it. So let's do some drawing, hey fellas, and women too. Sorry.
So I realised that intro was rather brief. I kind of just wanted to film in front of Mount Fuji while I was there because it's sort of on brand, isn't it? Apologies by the way if I sound a bit bunged up in this voiceover. I'm a bit poorly right now, but I'm soldiering on for you, for your sake, so maybe be grateful. And in a way, art is the best medicine, isn't it? So today we're going to be revisiting the autumnal cloud forest area. If you've watched this series before, you might remember me drawing this misty yellow and orange landscape littered with these big rock pillar formations. I wanted to revisit this area just to flesh it out a bit more. Not much happens here plot-wise so far, so I had to think about how to give it more impact. It's worth noting, by the way, I did the first two drawings of this video just before going away on a 6-week trip to Japan, so I had a bit of a time constraint. And also, during this trip to Japan, I obviously saw a load of really cool things, got a lot of inspiration, and now that I'm back, I sort of wish I had waited to do these drawings, particularly when it comes to drawing like temples and pagodas, because as you'll see, I didn't get them quite right initially, and it definitely would have helped to have seen a lot of them in real life first, as I have now. So maybe a bit of a lack of foresight on my part there, but with this piece you're seeing now, things weren't all bad. This is sort of a more zoomed in look at one of the rock formations the main characters all have to visit to cross over this huge misty canyon. Each rock pillar is connected by these long treacherous rope bridges, and I like the idea that each has its kind of own small group of caretakers or its own little community who centre around a temple on each one and spend their life giving praise to whatever mysterious gods they believe live out in this sea of clouds. As you'll see, it took me a long time to draw this temple, and I wasn't really fully happy with it, but I do think having these like wooden temples perched on the sides of these steep cliffs is kind of a cool concept. So yeah, the idea is there, it's just the execution of me trying to draw like any sort of architecture is not quite up to scratch. In terms of building up that element of mysterious folklore surrounding gods and spirits that might inhabit this area, I think that's the key to making this location more relevant to the story, because in our journey up the big mountain, it sits as kind of a transitionary location between the bamboo forest and the autumn forest. These two forests share something in common in that they both have a huge guardian spirit that watches over them. For the bamboo forest, it's this big earth golem, and for the autumn forest, there's a whole arc surrounding this giant sky whale. So it makes sense to use this vast open canyon area as a sort of form of build-up towards that. Again, referring back to previous episodes of this series, you might remember we changed the giant sky whale storyline around a bit, so instead of appearing out of the clouds below, he's actually made out of clouds and appears when they start swirling around and form into him. Oh god, it's kind of hard to describe, it's all a bit abstract, but anyway, my idea is that we can foreshadow this event kind of easily by having it so as the main characters venture out across this series of long rope bridges, they begin to hear weird swishing noises and rumbling noises below, and the closer they get to the other side of the canyon, the clouds all begin to grow and swell around them, forming into these big foggy tendrils and almost kind of chasing them until they reach the other side. So that's like a pretty obvious way to hint towards these clouds having a mind of their own, which we obviously find out later because they're actually this big sky whale who acts as a guardian of this part of the mountain. So I'm not sure I described that very well, but it's hard sometimes to put the weird ideas in my head into words. Hopefully the drawings you're seeing on screen will help you visualize things a bit better. In terms of this second drawing, I did run out of time and I wasn't happy with the way I left off. I think this imperial style gate that I drew is wonky as hell, so I did come back to that 6 weeks later, and like I said, having seen an overwhelming amount of temples, it actually really did help me when it came to constructing one of my own, and I hope you agree, it looks a bit better now than it did at first. Another change I made was to add all these little statues around the place. I had done this in a kind of half-hearted way when I left off, but while I was in Japan, I went to a temple in the outskirts of Kyoto that I just thought was so cool. It had rows and rows of these little funny Buddhist statues, and with them all standing together, many of them covered in layers of moss. I just thought it was really pretty, so perhaps the statues in my piece are previous generations of worshippers who once manned their own temples out in the canyon, and when they died, a statue was built in their honor so they could watch over travelers passing through this somewhat dangerous area. I'm not sure, is this how you do world building? I'm just trying to sprinkle in as many little things as possible. So those were the autumn themed drawings, and now we're going to do a little bit of a hard cut to another section of the film. I don't know if you remember, I drew this wintry themed town, which I have since decided to call Cuthbert's Rest. It's the furthest that most people are willing to travel up this mountain, and it acts as a hot air balloon and airship port. And in this village we found out that to continue on their journey, the main characters are going to have to travel out across this big frozen lake, which as it unfolds is where the third mountain guardian lives. But before that, our main characters arrive in the town just as the final boat of the day is departing, so they see it setting off into the distance just before they can reach it. It's a big smog belching paddle steamer with huge chimney stacks, and I'm planning to draw more of this scene in future episodes, but for now I just wanted to draw the captain of the ship, because again, during my trip in Japan, which by the way I will most likely refer to many more times in future, so just be prepared for that, I visited what is known as a cat island called Aoshima. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. It'll be in one of my upcoming vlogs, so you'll see it there, but on the ferry over to the island, I was kind of thinking, wouldn't it be funny if the ferry driver was also a cat? You know, if it was like an island for cats, run by cats. And that's when I came up with this guy. He's a sleepy little fellow who's probably had a really tough shift. It's cold, he's grumpy, but he's been hardened by living in this wintry landscape, and he gets on with the job. And you know what, he does it well. So he's the captain of this big smoky paddle steamer, and you can put your naming suggestions in the comments below. I haven't come up with a name for him yet. So anyway, those are the drawings that I've done of late. Obviously, I'm quite out of practice having been away for a while, but I visited the Ghibli Museum actually just before I came home, and it gave me a real burst of inspiration looking through all the concept art and just seeing all of Hayao Miyazaki's drawings, and it made me really wish I was better at drawing myself. So I'm going to try and practice more between episodes because I'm a bit lazy and I want to get better at it faster. So yeah, I'm going to specifically focus on character drawing because I cannot draw people. I'd like to be able to depict some of the people that live in this world of mine. Alright, anyway, that's all I wanted to say. My voice is dying and I'm unbelievably snotty, so I'm really sorry if this was horrible to listen to. I'm gonna go now. Okay, goodbye.
And there you have it, everyone. Those were the drawings today. Thank you so much for watching. No, before we get the pleasantries out of the way, I just want to say thank you very much for sticking with the channel while I was in Japan. Obviously, there was a bit of a disruption of content, shall we say, so I'm not really sure what the future holds for this channel, but I'm going to do a couple gaming videos. The Wii Baseball stuff will continue. This will continue intermittently, obviously, like it always has. But yes, if you want to support this movie idea, you can go cop yourself some Big Mountain merch. That would really help. And I'm very appreciative to anyone who's done that so far. So that's going to stay up there on BogBoyMerch.com. That's BogBoyMerch.com. And apart from that, you can go and support me on Patreon. I'm going to think about how I can make Patreon a more valuable thing for people to invest in. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you've got any ideas. Is there anything that would make you support the Patreon? But I obviously fully understand if, you know, people don't have the time or resources to do that. So thank you very much for watching for today. I'm going to go and be in Japan again now. I'm gonna...